Welcome. We're going to start this lesson by launching Adobe Illustrator CC. Make sure that you have visited the Adobe tutorial on the introduction to the Adobe CC interface. We're going to start by doing File, New, and we're going to print, and we want a letter size. And over here on the right panel, make the unit of measurement inches, and you'll have an 8.5 by 11 page, and keep everything as you see here, portrait orientation. Hit create. Now at this point, what comes up is the Essentials interface, and for this lesson, if you do not have it on your screen, go to Window and open up the Layers panel, open up the Control panel, open up the Tools, obviously, and open up the Swatches. For any of these programs, in order for you to gain access to the panels, you need to go to the Window menu and locate whichever panel you want to use. For this lesson, we are using only the ones you see on the screen. Now, in order to move them around, you point to the title bar up here, and you can drag them around. These are called floating panels. And we'll bring this down to here. So for the first lesson, we're going to take our selection tool, that's the black arrow, and we're going to go down and select this tool, which is the rectangle tool, and we're going to come out onto our page and click. When you see the field come up, type in 1.5 tab 1.5 and hit OK. What we have here is a square, and I want to alert you to this area here on the bottom of the tool panel. This tells you the color of the stroke of the object that is selected, and when you click this, it tells you the fill of the object selected. And all of you, whatever you have, make the fill white and make the stroke for this first part black, and then return to your selection tool. Now before we start doing things, I want you to go to Window, to View, and go to Rulers, Show Rulers, and you'll see a ruler along the top and a ruler on the left in inches. And this way we can locate our objects according to the rulers. Now, I wanted to go over some navigational things. Right now we are looking at a page, and in all of these programs, in order to fit the page into your window, the keystroke command on a Mac is Command 0, is what we have now. And on a PC, the keystroke is CTRL, which I'll call from now on Control 0. Anytime I say Command, if you are on a PC, you use the CTRL key. Right, now, I want you to take your selection tool and point to the square you just drew and click on it, and this will select it. And just move it around by pressing your mouse down and move it around. Now let's take it and move it up to the top left corner and locate it about a ½ inch from the top edge of the page and a ½ inch from the left edge of the page, right there. Now, in order for us to learn more about navigation, go Command or Control plus, and this goes in close, like I just did here. Command minus goes out. It's also CTRL minus if you're on a PC. Now, sometimes when you're going close up, everybody go in close again. Now, let's say you want to move the page around over this metaphoric camera that's hovering above your desktop. You hold your finger on the space bar while you're in the selection tool, and you'll notice that the mouse, the cursor becomes a grabber hand. Press your left mouse button down, and you will move the page around underneath the imaginary camera that's hovering above your desktop. Now go Command minus, like that. Go Command or Control 0, and you fit in window again. So everybody should have a square up on the top left corner of their page. Now I'd like you to double click on your layers panel, double click layer 1, and call this square, and hit return in order to save the name of the layer. In all of these lessons, in all of these programs, please get into the habit of naming your layers. And in this one, you double click the name of the layer and you type right over it what you want the new name to be. Now let's take it and let's go on and create our first tessellation. And by this time, you should have visited online. In Blackboard, you should have visited the tessellation folder and learned about tessellation. And the word tessera is how it all started, and it's quite simple to think of a tile floor where the entire floor is covered by tiles with no negative space, no extra space, and it's completely covered by a figure, by an object. So let's get started. You point to your object and select it. You click it and select it. Now go to Object, Transform, Move, type in 1.5, tab 1. Vertical is 0. Tab, don't type anything and just accept the 1.5 inch distance. And now to see what we are planning to do, you click the preview button right there, and you'll notice that the clone of the first square will be directly next to it, as I've indicated in here. Now hit the copy button. In order to complete the row, on a Mac, hold down the Command and hit D. On a PC, hold down CTRL D. And you do D 3 times, and this is called power duplicating. And we've now created our first row in our design. Now, click outside, nothing is selected. We're going to quickly select all of the squares in our first row, and the best way to do it is to marquee select by pointing your mouse to the left, press down, and draw a fence that touches a part of every object you want selected. When I release the mouse, they're all selected. Now we return to the Object menu, Transform, and we move. Under Horizontal, type in 0 this time. Hit the Tab key, and it goes down to the next text field, 1.5. Hit the Tab, and everything stays the same. And as you can see, because the preview button is checked, it does exactly what we want it to do. We want the first row to be copied and made the second row. And hit the copy button again. Now, do the Command or Control D, D, D. And now we've completed our checkerboard. Now, in order to learn about selecting and coloring with the swatches, let's point to the first square and hold the Shift down and go to the third and the fifth and proceed down the checkerboard and select every other one. And now I have selected all of them. And at this point, I want to make sure that I am working on, I want to change the fill of these squares by pointing over here and bring the fill in the front. I activate the fill. I don't want the colors at this point. I just want to have my swatches panel, and I'll make it bigger by pointing to the lower right corner. And I'm going to make the fill of these squares red. So there's a checkerboard. And then let's see what happens if we fill the other squares another color. So rather than having to go through the whole process again of selecting them, go up to the Select menu and go Inverse. And it selects all of the other squares. And now, just to show you what happens when you mix complementary colors, we're going to make this green, like that. And you'll notice that there will be a slight irradiation, it's called, like a vibration effect, because you're putting red and green complementary colors together. I'm not happy with that, and I want you to do something more soothing, so go Command Z or Control Z, and you deselected what you just did. And now let's make it into a color that's not so bothersome, and I'm going to pick over like that. And that's not too bad. So that gives us our first tessellation of a checkerboard. Now click outside and deselect. Now I realize that I don't want the stroke to be seen. So let's select all of the squares. This time go Command or Control A and bring the stroke in the front and hit the None button at the bottom of your tool panel. And there you have it. Now let's select all of them again. Command A, point to the first square and hold the Shift down. Click on the first square, and that deselects the first square. Now hit the Delete key, and we're back to square one. And from here, we'll go on to our next lesson where we're going to create the Pegasus.